In 1986, off the coast of Yonaguni Island, Japan, a diver went down alone. The water was cold, the visibility was low. He was not looking for anything unusual. His name was Kihachiro Aratake. He was a dive instructor. He had dived these waters before, many times, but on this particular morning, something was different. 20 meters below the surface, the ocean floor changed. It became flat, perfectly flat. Not the way sand becomes flat, not the way coral spreads. This was a surface, a deliberate surface. Aratake slowed his descent. He looked around him. Stone steps rose from the ocean floor below. 1, 2, 3. They ascended upward into the cold, grey water above. He followed them. At the top, a platform stretched before him. Wide, level, silent. He looked to his left. A wall dropped straight down, 90 degrees, clean and sharp. He looked to his right. Another platform, another step, another wall. He floated there, 30 meters below the surface of the Pacific Ocean. He did not understand what he was looking at. Nobody did, not for a very long time. And now, nearly 4 decades later, the question is still the same. What is the Yonaguni Monument? How did it get there? And who or what made it? Yonaguni Island sits at the southwestern edge of Japan. It is small, mostly forgotten. The island is roughly 28 kilometers long and 4 kilometers wide. About 1,700 people live there. The nearest major city is Naha, the capital of Okinawa. It is 509 kilometers away. To the west, across a narrow stretch of water, is Taiwan. The rock beneath the island is old. Sandstone and mudstone formed over 20 million years, shaped by pressure, by time, by the slow movement of the earth. The sea around Yonaguni is famous for something: hammerhead sharks. Every year, hundreds of divers come for the sharks. But some come for something else. They come for what Aratake found, what lies beneath the surface, what nobody fully understands. The structure that Aratake discovered is now called the Yonaguni Monument. Scientists also call it Iseki Point. In Japanese, it means ruins point. It sits beneath the ocean off the southern coast of the island. The main structure is approximately 150 meters long, 40 meters wide, 27 meters tall. To understand how tall that is, consider this. A 9-story building is approximately 27 meters. Now imagine a 9-story structure on the ocean floor. Flat surfaces, sharp edges, right angles, terraced platforms like a stepped pyramid, staircases, a path that looks like a road, something that looks like an arch, something that looks like a doorway. Twin stone pillars, standing side by side and carved into the rock, what appears to be a human face. All of this is underwater. All of this has been underwater for a very long time. The water around Yonaguni is not calm. The currents there are strong. The tides shift quickly. Divers must be careful. The ocean does not wait. But when the water is still and the visibility is good, something becomes clear. The structure below is not random. It does not look like the seafloor around it. It does not look like natural rock. Or does it? That question has never been answered. And it is the only question that matters. Kihachiro Aratake told people what he had seen. At first, no one paid much attention. Divers in the area had seen unusual rock formations before. The ocean floor near Yonaguni is complex. It is layered. It has been shaped by earthquakes and by time. But Aratake knew this was different. He went back. He photographed it. He showed the photographs to researchers. In 1987, 1 year after the discovery, the first academic team arrived. They descended into the water. What they found confirmed what Aratake had seen, and it divided them immediately. Some believed it was natural, some believed it was not. That division has never healed. The first researcher to study Yonaguni seriously was Masaki Kimura. Professor Kimura was a marine geologist at the University of the Ryukyus in Okinawa. He spent 15 years diving at the monument. He made more than 100 dives. He measured, he photographed, he mapped. And in 1997 he published his findings. His conclusion was clear. The Yonaguni monument was man-made, or at minimum it had been modified by human hands. Kimura identified 10 specific structures at the site. He documented what appeared to be roads, channels, staircases and plazas. He found what he believed was a triangular pool, a star-shaped platform. He pointed to carvings in the rock, markings, patterns. He argued that these features could not be explained by natural processes alone. He gave the site a name, Iseki Kaite Iseki, the underwater ruins. Not everyone agreed. The geologist Robert Schoch arrived at Yonaguni in 1997. Schoch is a professor at Boston University. He is known for his work on the age of the Great Sphinx in Egypt. He is not a man who dismisses ancient mysteries easily, but when he dived at Yonaguni, his conclusion was different. He spent time at the site, he studied the rock carefully, and he concluded that the Yonaguni monument was natural, not man-made, not modified, simply the result of geological processes acting on sandstone over millions of years. Schoch pointed to the rock itself. Ryukyu sandstone, he explained, naturally fractures along horizontal and vertical planes. This is because of the way the rock formed, layer by layer, pressure upon pressure, over 20 million years. When rock fractures in two directions, it creates flat surfaces. It creates right angles. It creates what looks, but is not, like deliberate construction. Two scientists, both respected, both experienced, both looked at the same structure and came to opposite conclusions. This is the mystery at the heart of Yonaguni, not the structure itself, the disagreement. Because if Schoch is right, the monument is remarkable, but not mysterious. Nature does extraordinary things, but if Kimura is right, if even part of the structure was shaped by human hands, then something else must be considered. Something that changes everything. The water was cold, the current moved through the stone, and the stone, as always, said nothing. To understand what Kimura and Schoch were arguing about, it is necessary to understand the structure, not from above, not from a distance, from inside it, from underwater. The most striking feature of the Yonaguni monument is the main terrace. It is a wide, flat platform. The surface is remarkably smooth. It sits approximately 5 meters below the sea surface at its shallowest point. At its edge, the rock drops straight down. A vertical wall, approximately 7 meters high. Then another flat terrace. Then another drop. This pattern repeats. It creates a stepped structure, like a pyramid or like a ziggurat, the ancient step temples of Mesopotamia. Professor Kimura counted 5 distinct terraced levels, each one flat, each one separated by a vertical wall. The edges are clean, the corners are sharp. At the bottom, the ocean floor is sandy, still. On the southern face of the monument, there is a feature that stops most divers. It is a staircase, or something that looks exactly like a staircase. It consists of stone steps. Each step is approximately 1 meter wide, half a meter tall. They ascend from the lower level to the upper terrace. Professor Kimura documented this feature carefully. He measured it, photographed it, published it. For Kimura, the staircase was evidence. Natural rock, he argued, does not create uniform steps like this, not steps that a human being could climb. Schoch disagreed. He argued that the fracture patterns in Ryukyu sandstone produce step-like formations naturally. He pointed to similar formations in other parts of the world. Natural staircases, natural terraces. Geology is slow, it is patient, and sometimes it looks like architecture. Inside a cave-like structure on the eastern side of the monument, there are 2 pillars. They stand side by side. Each one is approximately 2 meters tall. They are cylindrical, rounded, smooth. They stand in a small chamber separated from the main structure. Professor Kimura believes they were placed there deliberately. Pillars, he argued, do not form naturally in this configuration. Schoch believes they could be natural, the result of erosion, water moving through rock for thousands of years. The pillars remain. They do not answer the question, they only deepen it. The most controversial feature of all is not the terraces. It is not the staircase, not the pillars. It is a carving, or what appears to be a carving. On one surface of the monument there are markings, 2 eyes, a nose, a line for a mouth, rough, weathered, ancient-looking. Kimura included this in his documentation. He believes it is evidence of human modification. Schoch believes it is pareidolia. Pareidolia is the human tendency to see faces in random patterns. We see faces in clouds, in wood grain, in rock. Our brains are built to find faces even where none exist. Perhaps that is what the Yonaguni face is. Perhaps it is something else. The monument has been dived thousands of times since 1986. It has been photographed from every angle, mapped by sonar, analyzed by computer, and still no one has settled the question, natural or human. The water keeps its secret. The stone does not speak. Robert Schoch made his first dive at Yonaguni in 1997. He was not looking to disprove anything. He came with an open mind. He came as a scientist, and when he surfaced, he had a conclusion, a clear one. The rock at Yonaguni is Ryukyu sandstone, layered sedimentary rock. It formed over tens of millions of years as sediment settled at the bottom of ancient seas, layer upon layer, year upon year. Over time, the sediment compressed, hardened, became stone. Sedimentary rock fractures in predictable ways. It breaks along horizontal planes, the lines between layers, and it breaks along vertical planes, where internal stress builds up. These 2 fracture directions create right angles, flat surfaces, sharp edges, corners. They look like construction, but they are not. They are geology. Schoch documented similar formations in other parts of the world, in Iran, in California, in Chile. Natural rock that looks like ruins, natural surfaces that look like walls. Geology has been doing this for a very long time, long before humans existed to copy it. The currents around Yonaguni are strong. Over thousands of years, water moving through the rock has worn away softer material, leaving harder sections intact, rounding some edges, sharpening others, creating channels, creating what look like pathways. Schoch argues that this natural erosion explains many of the features Kimura attributes to humans: the road, the channels, the smooth surfaces. Water is patient, water is precise, and water has had a very long time. There is another process Schoch points to, sand abrasion. When sand is carried by strong currents across rock, it acts like sandpaper. It smooths the surface. It removes irregularities. It creates flat, polished areas. The main terrace of the Yonaguni monument is flat and smooth. Schoch argues that sand abrasion over thousands of years created this. Not human hands, not tools, sand, current, time. In 2004, Schoch published a detailed analysis of the Yonaguni monument. He included comparisons to natural rock formations from around the world. The Moeraki boulders in New Zealand, wave rock in Australia, formations in Hawaii, in the Azores, in coastal Japan itself, all natural, all resembling in some ways human construction. He argued that Yonaguni fits the same pattern, remarkable, unusual, but natural. His explanation required no humans, no civilization, no mystery, just geology, just time. For many people, this is unsatisfying. The human mind wants a story. It wants builders. It wants purpose. A natural explanation is clean, but it feels empty. But here is what Schoch's theory cannot fully explain. It cannot explain everything Kimura found. Not the pillars, not the face, not all of it. Some features of the Yonaguni monument do not fit neatly into a geological explanation. And those features are why the debate continues, why divers still descend year after year, why the question has never been answered, because the ocean does not give up everything at once. Robert Schoch made his first dive at Yonaguni in 1997. He was not looking to disprove anything. He came with an open mind. He came as a scientist. And when he surfaced, he had a conclusion, a clear one. The rock at Yonaguni is Ryukyu sandstone, layered sedimentary rock. It formed over tens of millions of years as sediment settled at the bottom of ancient seas, layer upon layer, year upon year. Over time, the sediment compressed, hardened, became stone. Sedimentary rock fractures in predictable ways. It breaks along horizontal planes, the lines between layers, and it breaks along vertical planes, where internal stress builds up. These two fracture directions create right angles, flat surfaces, sharp edges, corners. They look like construction, but they are not. They are geology. Schoch documented similar formations in other parts of the world, in Iran, in California, in Chile. Natural rock that looks like ruins, natural surfaces that look like walls. Geology has been doing this for a very long time, long before humans existed to copy it. The currents around Yonaguni are strong. Over thousands of years, water moving through the rock has worn away softer material, leaving harder sections intact, rounding some edges, sharpening others, creating channels, creating what look like pathways. Schoch argues that this natural erosion explains many of the features Kimura attributes to humans. The road, the channels, the smooth surfaces. Water is patient. Water is precise. And water has had a very long time. There is another process Schoch points to, sand abrasion. When sand is carried by strong currents across rock, it acts like sandpaper. It smooths the surface. It removes irregularities. It creates flat, polished areas. The main terrace of the Yonaguni monument is flat and smooth. Schoch argues that sand abrasion over thousands of years created this. Not human hands, not tools, sand, current, time. In 2004, Schoch published a detailed analysis of the Yonaguni monument. He included comparisons to natural rock formations from around the world. The Moeraki boulders in New Zealand, wave rock in Australia, formations in Hawaii, in the Azores, in coastal Japan itself. All natural. all resembling in some ways human construction. He argued that Yonaguni fits the same pattern, remarkable, unusual, but natural. His explanation required no humans, no civilization, no mystery, just geology, just time. For many people, this is unsatisfying. The human mind wants a story, it wants builders, it wants purpose. A natural explanation is clean, but it feels empty. But here is what Shocker's theory cannot fully explain. It cannot explain everything Kimura found. Not the pillars, not the face, not all of it. Some features of the Yonaguni monument do not fit neatly into a geological explanation. And those features are why the debate continues, why divers still descend year after year, why the question has never been answered. Because the ocean does not give up everything at once. The Yonaguni monument is underwater now. It has been underwater for a long time. But it was not always underwater. This is a fact, not a theory, not a debate. The sea level around Yonaguni was once much lower. This changes everything. Approximately 20,000 years ago, the Earth was in the grip of the last ice age. The last glacial maximum. Ice covered much of North America, much of Europe, parts of Asia. The polar ice caps were vast. All of this ice held water that would otherwise be in the sea. And so the sea was lower, much lower. Scientists estimate that 20,000 years ago, global sea levels were approximately 120 meters lower than they are today. Not 10 meters, not 20 meters, 120 meters. The world's coastlines were completely different. Large areas of land now underwater were then dry. Yonaguni Island was not an island, it was connected to a larger landmass. Between 20,000 and 10,000 years ago, the ice began to melt, slowly at first, then faster. The sea level began to rise. It rose approximately 1 meter every century for thousands of years. By 10,000 years ago, the sea level had risen dramatically. Land bridges were gone. Coastal areas were drowned. And the Yonaguni monument, if it was near the coast at that time, would have been submerged. The main platform of the monument sits 5 to 27 meters below the current sea surface. For the deepest parts to have been above water, the sea level would need to have been at least 27 meters lower than today. That sea level existed approximately 10,000 years ago. 10,000 years before the present, before Egypt, before Mesopotamia, before Stonehenge, before any civilization we know by name. If the Yonaguni monument was above water 10,000 years ago, it was built in a world we know almost nothing about. 10,000 years ago, humans existed. They were not primitive, not simple. They were anatomically modern human beings. They had language, fire, tools. They hunted. They painted caves. At Lascaux in France, cave paintings date to 17,000 years ago. At Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, a stone temple complex dates to 11,500 years ago. Göbekli Tepe proved something that archaeologists had long doubted. It proved that complex stone construction was possible before agriculture, before cities, before writing, before the civilizations we recognize as civilization. If Göbekli Tepe was possible, then something like Yonaguni was possible. This is why Kimura revised his estimate. Initially, he dated the monument to about 5,000 years ago, but as he studied it more, he shifted his thinking. The structure, he came to believe, was last above water approximately 8,000 to 10,000 years ago. It may have been built as long ago as 8,000 BCE, perhaps earlier. Kimura proposed that the builders were related to the Jomon people. The Jomon are one of the oldest known cultures in Japan. They lived in Japan as long as 14,000 years ago. They fished, they gathered, they made pottery. Their pottery is among the oldest in the world, and their territory included the islands of what is now Okinawa. If the Yonaguni monument was built by human hands and if it was submerged 10,000 years ago, then everything we know about the ancient world has a gap in it. A gap shaped like a structure 150 meters long on the floor of the Pacific Ocean. A civilization that built in stone, that shaped rock, that created platforms and paths and places, and then the sea came and covered everything. Two scientists, two conclusions, but the debate around Yonaguni did not stay between Kimura and Shock. It grew. It spread. Other researchers entered the discussion. Some agreed with Kimura, some agreed with Shock, some proposed new theories entirely. In 2000, a team of geologists from the Japan Society for Ocean Engineering conducted a formal study. They concluded that the basic structure was natural, formed by the fracturing and erosion of Ryukyu sandstone. They agreed with Shock on the fundamental geology, but they left room for something else. They acknowledged that some specific features, specific ones, might have been modified. Not built from scratch, but altered, shaped, improved upon. The word they used carefully was modified. This middle position is important because it changes the question. Not, was it natural or man-made? But, was a natural formation used by humans? Humans throughout history have done exactly this. They have taken natural caves and made them into shelters. They have taken natural hills and shaped them into fortifications. They have taken natural rock faces and carved them into temples. The most famous example is Abu Simbel in Egypt, a temple carved into a natural cliff face, natural stone. Human modification. If the Jomon people encountered a natural stepped formation at Yonaguni, they might have done the same. They might have smoothed certain surfaces, added certain features, used it for shelter or ritual, and those modifications 10,000 years underwater might be exactly what we see now. By 2010, Robert Schoch had softened his position slightly. He still believed the main structure was natural, but he acknowledged that some specific features were difficult to explain by geology alone, particularly the tool marks, particularly the triangular pool. He began to speak carefully about the possibility of natural formations with human modifications. This is a different position from his original one, not a full reversal, but an acknowledgement that the answer might be more complex than a simple yes or no. There is a fundamental problem with studying the Yonaguni monument. It is underwater. Underwater archaeology is difficult, it is slow, it is expensive, it is affected by currents and visibility and time. On land, archaeologists can excavate carefully, layer by layer. They can find tools, pottery, bone, charcoal for carbon dating. At Yonaguni, none of this is possible in the same way. The water has eroded most organic material. The currents shift sediment constantly. There are no pottery shards lying around the monument, no tools, no hearths, no human bones. If there was ever organic evidence of human habitation near the monument, it is almost certainly gone. What remains is only the stone, and stone tells you what it wants to tell you, no more. The debate is not over. It has been going on for nearly 40 years. Kimura died in 2019. He never changed his conclusion. He believed the monument was built by human hands. he believed it until the end. Shock continues to argue for a natural explanation. Between them and around them, the question remains open. The water remains cold. The structure remains silent. The Yonaguni monument is not alone. This is something that is not always mentioned, not always considered, but it is important. When Professor Kimura conducted his surveys, he did not focus only on the main monument. He documented 10 separate structures within a relatively small area of ocean floor. These structures are spread over several square kilometers. They include what Kimura called the main monument, a structure he identified as a castle. A raised stone road, approximately 40 meters long, a stone arch, what appears to be a gateway or doorway, several platforms and terraced areas, stone pillars in multiple locations. If these structures are all natural, then the area around Yonaguni has an extraordinary concentration of unusual geological formations. If even some of them are man-made, then we are not looking at a single structure. We are looking at a complex, a site. One of the most compelling subsidiary features is the stone road. It is a raised stone pathway, approximately 2 meters wide. It runs in a roughly straight line across the ocean floor for approximately 40 meters. Its surface is relatively flat. Its edges are defined. Kimura documented this road carefully. He argued that roads are inherently functional. They connect places. They have a beginning and an end. If this is a road, something built it, and something used it. If it is natural, if it is the result of fracturing and erosion, then it is a remarkable coincidence, a path that goes nowhere, and came from nothing. Approximately 300 meters from the main monument, there is what appears to be a stone arch. It is partially collapsed. What remains is the base structure. 2 supports, a connecting element above. Arches occur in nature. Sea arches are common along coastlines. Water erodes rock from both sides until a bridge remains. But sea arches usually form vertically, from wave action on a cliff face. This arch is on the seafloor. The erosion pattern is different. Kimura believed it was constructed. Shock believes it is natural. The arch sits in the water. It says nothing. The waters around Okinawa are not the only place where unusual underwater formations have been documented. Off the coast of India, near the ancient port city of Dwarka, submerged structures were found. Some date to approximately 9,500 years ago. Near the island of Karama, also in Okinawa Prefecture, divers have reported circular stone formations on the ocean floor. In the Mediterranean, off the coast of Sardinia, submerged structures have been documented. The list is long, and it raises a possibility that mainstream archaeology has been slow to accept. That before the end of the last ice age, humans were building along coastlines that are now underwater. That the archaeological record of early civilization is incomplete, because much of it is beneath the sea. The Yonaguni monument may be one of those chapters, or it may be stone-shaped by the sea alone. But if it is one of those chapters, then what lies in other waters? What has not yet been found? What is waiting in the cold and the silence for someone to descend and look? There is a habit of thinking that places civilization in a straight line, from simple to complex, from primitive to advanced. The Jomon people made pottery, but they were hunter-gatherers. Hunter-gatherers do not build monuments. That is the assumption. But Göbekli Tepe broke that assumption, and if Yonaguni is what Kimura believed it to be, it breaks it again. more completely. If the Yonaguni monument is man-made, a city, a complex of temples, a platform for ritual, then its builders had capabilities we did not assign to them. They could shape stone. They could plan and build at scale. They could create structures that lasted not for centuries, but for millennia. Structures that survived 10,000 years of ocean current pressure and biological activity. That is more durable than most of what we build today. Whoever built the monument, if it was built, did not leave much behind. No writing, no pottery found at the site, no tools, no organic remains. This absence tells us something. Not that they were primitive. The sea has taken almost everything organic. What it tells us is that they built in stone, that they committed to permanence. Stone is what you use when you want something to last. They wanted this to last. The phrase lost civilization appears often in discussions of Yonaguni. Serious archaeologists treat it with caution. The history of archaeology is full of romantic theories about lost civilizations that turned out to be wrong. Atlantis, Lemuria, Mu. Myths dressed as history, but there is a difference between myth and genuine uncertainty. And the genuine uncertainty around Yonaguni is this. We do not know what happened on the coastal plains of East Asia before the sea rose. We do not have the evidence. The evidence is underwater. Saying lost civilization may be too dramatic, but saying unknown history is not. Before his death in 2019, Professor Kimura worked to have the Yonaguni site formally recognized. He wanted it to receive the same level of archaeological investigation as sites on land. He wanted funding. He wanted teams. He wanted time. He did not get everything he wanted. The site has been studied, but not exhaustively. Not the way a site of this potential significance deserves. Kimura believed that with proper investigation the evidence would become undeniable. He went to his death believing that. Whether he was right is still unknown. Every year divers descend to the Yonaguni monument. They come from Japan, from America, from Europe. Some are scientists, some are travelers, some are searching for proof, some just want to see. They all descend into the same cold water. They all float above the same flat terraces. They all feel the same current moving through the stone. And they all surface with the same expression. The expression of someone who has seen something that does not fit cleanly into what they know. In 1986, Kihachiro Aratake descended alone. He saw flat stone, sharp edges, terraces descending into the cold. He did not know what to do with what he saw. He came back. He showed others. And in the nearly 4 decades since that first dive, the world has had the same response. Looking, measuring, arguing, and in the end, not knowing. This is what is known. The Yonaguni monument exists. It is real. It has been measured and documented. It is approximately 150 meters long, 40 meters wide, 27 meters tall. It consists of multiple terraced levels, flat surfaces, sharp edges, and unusual formations. It sits in water that was above sea level approximately 8,000 to 12,000 years ago. Humans existed at that time. They were capable of complex behavior. They built things in stone, as Göbekli Tepe proves. They lived near coastlines. They fished. They traveled. This is all known. What is not known is simpler to state. Whether any human hand touched the stone at Yonaguni, whether any human mind planned what we see there, whether the terraces were walked, whether the steps were climbed, whether the twin pillars meant something to someone, whether the face carved or not carved in the rock was meant to be seen. These things are not known. They may never be known. Science has boundaries. Not because science is limited in principle, but because evidence is limited in practice. The evidence at Yonaguni is stone. Stone is durable. It survives what other materials do not. But stone is also ambiguous. Natural stone and worked stone can look almost identical, especially after 10,000 years, especially underwater. The tools that would settle the questions, organic remains, charcoal for carbon dating, bone pottery, are gone. The ocean took them. What remains is only what the ocean could not dissolve, the stone itself, the terraces, the silence. People who have dived at Yonaguni describe the experience in similar ways. The scale is larger than photographs suggest. The water is colder than expected. The current is strong, it pulls constantly, and floating above the main terrace there is a particular quality to the silence. Not absence, not emptiness, something more like suspension, as if the place is waiting, as if the question asked in 1986 has never been taken back, and the monument is holding it, in the water, in the stone, in the still and the dark. Professor Masaki Kimura spent more than 15 years at Yonaguni, more than 100 dives. He gave his professional life to the question, and at the end of his life, he said this: "The Yonaguni monument is not a product of nature alone." He said it quietly. He said it without drama. He said it the way a man says something he has seen with his own eyes many times over many years. The way a man says something he has earned the right to say. He was not certain. He admitted that, but he believed. Robert Schoch spent years diving at Yonaguni too, and at the end of his study he said this: "The basic structure is natural. Geology explains it." He said it carefully, precisely, the way a scientist is trained to speak, with evidence, with measurement. He was not dismissing the monument, he was describing it, in the only language science has, two men, both educated, both experienced, both honest, both looked at the same stones and came to different conclusions. Neither could prove the other wrong, because the evidence is underwater, because the evidence is incomplete, because 10,000 years is a long time for answers to survive. The Yonaguni monument sits on the floor of the Pacific Ocean. The current moves through it slowly. Fish pass through the terraces, through the staircase, through the narrow channels. The stone is cold. The water is dark. The question from 1986 remains exactly where it was left, in the silence, in the deep. No one has answered it. No one knows.